Formula One on 5 Live.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sprint Saturday in Austin, Texas. We are moments away from the sprint race here at the Circuit of the Americas. Nestled amid the Texan hills, this just over 5.5 kilometre ribbon of tarmac features an uphill drag into turn one, a sweeping set of high-speed S's and dramatic braking zones. The stakes are high too. A driver's championship fight is well and truly on. We have midfield runners in search for big results and hopefully some exciting wheel-to-wheel action about to head our way over the course of this 100-kilometre dash. Four-time world champ Max Verstappen starts from pole. He's eager to claw back precious points in the title battle, though he trails his McLaren counterparts in the standings. They start behind the Dutchman on the grid, and that's not all. The searing Texan sun has forecasted high temperatures. The FIA has declared a heat hazard, so tough conditions for drivers and tyres expected. It's Harry Benjamin with you up in the commentary box, and alongside me is the 1996 Formula One world champion Damon Hill. Looking forward to this one, Damon?
Of course, absolutely brilliant. Exciting stuff. I mean, it is only a sprint. We say that. There are less points awarded for this event, but there's always a matter of pride and also experience. A lot of people are using this race as an opportunity to learn something for tomorrow's race.
Well, that I agree with you there, but we have points on offer and we have a championship that is quite tight. 22 points separate Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Max Verstappen, though, is the one on pole, only by 71 thousandths of a second. So I would argue, I'd say every point matters at this stage.
Every point always matters. I mean, world championships have been lost by half a point, and quite often it comes down to a critical last race where the driver who could win and thought he was going to win for a long time is vulnerable right down to the last race. So yes, you're right, they were racing, but I don't think that I just think the sprint, the drivers are less attacking. It seems to me in the first corners sometimes it seems they behave themselves a little bit more in this format, but the pole position here is typically not an advantage because it's a very short run to turn one and it's uphill, and so it's very difficult for the guy on pole to get enough ahead to be able to be in the right place. So the guy on second, who is actually in this case Lando Norris, is able to put his wheels in front of the guy and actually steal the corner. And that's exactly what happened in the race last year. But this year Lando is in the opposite position. So whether he'll dive down, because he looked a bit feisty, I thought, as we know, in Singapore, and he got himself into a little bit of deep water with his team because he maybe misjudged it a little bit and biffed into Oscar. And so there's been discussions about not knocking into each other. But of course, we're not talking about teammates here. We're talking about opposing drivers.
We are, and we know they have history here from last year. Right, just a few moments away then from lights out. Let's head down on the ground. Our eyes and ears in the searing heat. It's Jenny Gow.
33 degrees. Some of the drivers, even though it's a short race, are wearing their cooling vests. And it's going to be a real battle for them to stay cool. Not as hot as Singapore, not as, I suppose, oppressive, but it is hot. And it's windy with the winds going from right to left as you look up the hill. So it's going to be a real threat.
It certainly will be. No pit stops in this sprint race, no mandatory pit stops at the very least, and looks like everybody will be starting on the medium tyre. Reminder, Pirelli actually sort of experimenting across this weekend. There's an extra step between the hard and then the medium and soft compound. We'll see, hopefully opening up strategies for the main Grand Prix on Sunday, but then everyone thinking then that the medium tyre is the call for this shorter sprint race, 100-kilometre dash, 19 laps, and a huge elevation zone up to turn one before the track dives and dances through a rhythm of bends inspired by the likes of Suzuka and Silverstone. It's going to be incredibly important for all of the 20 drivers in the field to nail that first lap, especially with two Williams drivers as well up inside the top 10. Midfield runners in hopes for some big points here. Let's head back down to the grid with Jenny.
Yes, I'm down here with James Vowles, team principal at Williams, of course, at the time when the car is at its loudest. James, in the top 10, amazing sprint qualifying yesterday. How do you think both of your drivers are going to fare out there, though?
Good. I'm always, our race car is generally better than our qualifying car. And you saw we stepped back a little bit on our soft. We were more competitive on the medium, but the car's quick. And well done to Sauber and Nico, but I think we've got some pace on them. So let's see if we can move forward a bit today.
I mean, it is roasting hot down here. Alex is just behind us, is wearing one of these new cooling vests. I mean, it's only a short race, but do you think it's going to be quite arduous for the drivers out there?
Oh no, it'll be easy, don't worry about that. No, the cooling vest is good. We've got to remember that whilst it's really, really hot, actually compared to Singapore, this is easier on them as a result of it. And to your point, it's a sprint race, but performance is performance at the end of the day, so if that helps us, we'll keep running it.
And obviously the run up to turn 1, the first lap is where all the fireworks are supposed to happen. What do you predict?
Yeah, good question. Every year there's always someone pushed it a little bit out wide. The wind, you have to describe it to the viewers at home, or the listeners at home, but the wind is very, very strong. There's a huge American flag, probably the size of a building up there, and that just shows you how strong the wind is here. The biggest thing is probably more as you go in, it will go unstable, so you may see a few mistakes and people running wide.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Have a good race.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Team principal of Williams, James Vowles, speaking to Jenny Gow on the grid a few moments ago. He's right about the wind. Oscar Piastri reporting a 15 km/h tailwind into turn 6. But while 2 Williams drivers are inside the top 10 for this one, let's take you through the entire field. Right at the back, Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber, treating this one as a test session. He's behind Esteban Ocon in 19th. Poor sprint quali from Red Bull and Yuki Tsunoda down in 18th. Franco Colapinto from 17th, just behind Oliver Behrman in 16th. Liam Lawson had his lap time deleted yesterday. He starts from 15th spot. Then it's Lance Stroll in 14th. Pierre Gasly is 13th. Hadjar is 12th, with Kimi Antonelli biffed out of SQ3 yesterday in 11th into the top 10. A disappointing day for Ferrari with work to do. Charles Leclerc from 10th. Alex Albon is 9th, with Lewis Hamilton 8th. Carlos Sainz inside the top 7. A good qualifying from Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, going from 6th place. Last time out, the Singapore Grand Prix winner George Russell starts this sprint from 5th. A sensational sprint quali from the Sauber driver of Nico Hülkenberg from 4th. And then our championship protagonist, the man who leads the championship by 22 points, Oscar Piastri for McLaren, starts 3rd behind his teammate who trails him in the standings. Lando Norris is 2nd, and the man who sits 3rd in the championship, 63 points adrift, has the best view in the house. Max Verstappen, with his final burnouts to the grid, takes the sprint pole ahead of the 4th sprint of the season. Fireworks into turn 1, Damon Hill.
I'm really interested to see what Oscar's attitude is going to be to this, because he's been on the back foot a little bit. He's been losing out. He lost a lot of his fantastic points advantage. So will he be the brave man going into turn 1? We're going to find out.
Piastri was 3/10 adrift of his teammate Lando Norris yesterday. Both McLaren searching for a little bit more performance. The track, the wind is high. It is also bumpy as well. That is affecting how some of the drivers are able to get the most out of their machinery. For those outside the points towards the back, it will be tough to get inside that top 8. 8 points for the winner of the sprint, all the way down to 1 point for 8th. There are no mandatory pit stops. It is a sprint to the finish. 19 laps of racing, and the first corner sees a huge elevation all the way up to turn 1. And that braking zone, 215 metres away. But who will get there first? The United States of America flag flies at the top of the hill. The cars are in position. The lights are on. It's ice to the lights, sound foot to the floor as we have the sprint race underway. And it's a good start from Max Verstappen, who immediately crosses over to the inside. Piastri's going to go round his teammate though and try to. No, and there's going to be contact between Hülkenberg and Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris goes spinning round as well. There's a wheel off in the background. Big damage for the 2 McLarens though, as Max Verstappen steals the lead and runs away with it, followed by George Russell in the Mercedes, and the Williams sits in 3rd. But both McLarens, both championship contenders in the first corner, spinning round, and I think Piastri might be out of this one.
I'm actually looking at Yuki Tsunoda seemed to be taking it. He was taking a huge amount. We've just seen a shot of the wing that he was dragging around under his car, coming loose. So I think they're going to have a safety car at the moment. I cannot believe that they've got the ability to clean up the mess that was created by that first corner accident. It was absolute carnage. There was cars all over the place. I think Max Verstappen seems to be unscathed, but behind him, and here we are, safety car just come out.
Safety car is out. Let's bring in the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. Drama right from the start, Andrew.
Absolutely, Harry. So Oscar Piastri got a better start than Lando Norris. We're seeing a McLaren stranded by the side of the track on the exit of turn 1. I can't see who that is. It must be Lando Norris. Fernando Alonso also got caught up in that incident. What happened was Piastri got a better start than Norris and he went round the outside. Then he tried to cut back to the inside, and then the two McLarens and Nico Hülkenberg tangled. I couldn't work out without a replay who hit who first, but both McLarens are out of this sprint race.
Lando Norris has pulled up and stepped out of his car. So too has Oscar Piastri. I know it's a sprint, there are less points on offer, but both will pick up nothing as Max Verstappen at the end of lap 1 under safety car leads. George Russell managed to navigate the carnage in second. Carlos Sainz benefiting in the Williams up to third. Charles Leclerc fourth. Hamilton fifth. Yuki Tsunoda all the way from 18th on the grid has somehow managed to get himself up into 6th spot. We'll have to ratify that on the timing screen too, and then we'll try and see him on the screen, but I don't think that's correct. But Alex Albon now registering in 6th, so I think the timing has gone a bit haywire as we get a look at what happened at the start. So Max Verstappen immediately cuts over to the inside. The two McLarens are side by side. Nico Hülkenberg's trying to find a way through. Alonso goes down the inside, and Hülkenberg gets sandwiched in between Alonso and Piastri. Norris is just ahead of them and gets clipped by his McLaren teammates, who had nowhere to go, and that immediately put Norris out on the spot. Piastri carried on a little bit further round.
So Piastri's doing the cutback on Norris. Piastri's caught his left rear wheel over the front wheel of Nico Hülkenberg's Sauber, catapulted him into the air and then into Norris.
You'd have to say we're watching an onboard there of Nico Hülkenberg, and it does look very much like Nico kind of went in a wee bit too deep there and actually got squeezed between, I think it's Fernando Alonso on his left, and also Oscar Piastri just got taken out and then couldn't avoid hitting Lando because he was flipped up and he went up on two wheels. You're seeing the onboard from Oscar Piastri now.
So Oscar, be careful, we have possible suspension damage. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do see that.
I mean, what's really interesting about this, Harry and Damon, is that Singapore, of course, they hit McLaren, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris on the first lap because of something Lando Norris did when he bumped into Max Verstappen. Now we've got the opposite way around, a much more dramatic incident. Here's Norris.
Someone just wiped me out. I'm out. I'm sorry.
And that was Lando Norris, who immediately lost the entire wheel on that McLaren. Piastri managed to make it around a bit, but we're seeing slow images of the wishbones and the suspension completely sheared in half as he tried to find a way through. There was 3 cars going into the left-hander, and we're just getting a view from further back. There was carnage between the Aston Martin and Lance Stroll. I think that's given Franco Colapinto a puncture. He's come into the pits. Gasly has also reported someone has crashed into him, so they've all fallen down towards the rear of the field. Actually, Gasly's still able to continue going. He's worked his way up into 9th, but the other Alpine is down in 17th. Fernando Alonso is also out of this one as well. He was the car right on the inside of the apex going into turn 1. It was the Aston Martin on the inside, Nico Hülkenberg Sauber in the middle, as Lando Norris as Oscar Piastri on the outside of the McLaren turned in. We know turn 1 provides drama in Austin, Damon, but that's certainly delivered.
And there's me saying that they're all going to be really careful. It's only a sprint race, and of course there is no science to the first corner in Formula 1. All sorts of things happen. You cannot squeeze a lot of cars into a very tight corner like we have here at many circuits that we go to that have a very tight first corner. And of course I do think, looking back at the replay, that I do think that Nico Hülkenberg slightly got suckered into going in a bit deep there and was not prepared for Oscar Piastri to cut across him quite in the way that he did. And of course he couldn't pull away, he couldn't turn any further left because on his inside was Fernando Alonso, so he was squeezed. And then the irony of all this is there was all this discussion about the drivers in McLaren not crashing into each other, and now they've both taken each other out, but neither of them was to blame for that at all.
Well, lap 3 of 19 under the safety car. And we're going to get another look. Andrew, just taking a look at Yuki Tsunoda's start. Now, Tsunoda has actually made gains, but I think he collected the front wing of Nico Hülkenberg that breaks off. And it was a late dive from Tsunoda down the inside. He biffs the Racing Bull in front of him and then collects a bit of front wing for good measure. Just avoids a wheel from Lando Norris rolling down the track and has now somehow emerged up in 7th.
Yeah, he went in over ambitious as well, Yuki Tsunoda, into that first corner, as you say, biffed into the back. Was it a Racing Bull that he hit?
I think it was.
Yeah, so lots of chaos going on. And obviously the big headline here's Hamilton's radio.
It's bits of debris all over the track, mate. Like everywhere. Yeah. No, but it's like all the from turn 1 all the way down to turn 11.
And Hamilton's worried about debris because carbon fibre debris is very sharp. It can puncture the tyres, and if you go into a high-speed corner with a puncture, obviously that can be very dangerous. It's worth saying, I mean, obviously all the headlines are going to be about Piastri and Norris and McLaren and team orders and racing rules and all the rest of it, but poor Fernando Alonso, he's just got no luck this year. He starts in 6th, gets taken out the first lap, and here we are. Lewis Hamilton's not wrong. Look, there's debris just off the track there we're getting a shot of, but I mean, and the other thing that Hamilton's saying, the consequences of that is they can't restart the race until that debris has been cleared. So what are they going to do? Are they going to keep trundling around behind the safety car while people go out with brushes? I don't think so. There might even be a red flag here. I don't know, but it's a possibility.
I'm doing my maths. How much is the gap to from Max Verstappen to the championship leader?
63 points
before
the race.
Now 8 points better off. So it just has all this kind of... You get this feeling, don't you, with championships? They evolve. You think it's all done and dusted. From this point onwards was the most points that you get in any championship year. You get more points in this third, or is it quarter, of the championship than you get in all the other quarters, because you've got sprint races. Anyway, this is... Max has just lucked in again, and he's got a car that he can race with, so it's not over, this championship.
Absolutely not. We are fully anticipating this to go down to the wire. Lando Norris has made it back to the pit lane, and immediately the Netflix cameras are there to capture him. Let's just run you through how the order looks. We're still under safety car. It's lap 4 of 19 of this US sprint race. It's Verstappen who leads. Russell and Carlos Sainz is third for Williams. The two Ferraris, Leclerc and Hamilton, round out the top 5. Then comes the Williams of Albon. The second Red Bull of Tsunoda, and Ollie Behrman's Haas has managed to work his way through the carnage and up into 8th, having started all the way down the field in 16th spot for the British rookie. Gasly and Antonelli round out the top 10. Then it's Lawson in 11th ahead of Ocon. Bortoletto is 13th ahead of Stroll. Nico Hülkenberg is still in this race, has come into the pits for a front wing change. Lance Stroll is also pitted. Hadjar is in 16th position, and Franco Colapinto, who also picked up a puncture on lap 1, has come in for the pits and feeds out 17th and last. We have lost Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso. Jenny Gow, we wanted gloves off, we wanted drama. Well, we're halfway there at the very least.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. What a frenetic start to the race, and we thought it wasn't going to be like that, but it absolutely was. Through lots of different things coming together, but my word, the papers are going to be full of this. It's lighting the touch paper that we wanted, but the team definitely don't. I've just seen Lando Norris going back upstairs to his dressing room. Oscar Piastri will make the same trip, but the team, this is absolutely not what they wanted. They wrapped up the Constructors' Championship, but they want harmony, and no matter whose cause and whose fault it was, this is not harmonious, and this is not what their drivers needed in terms of the championship points.
We're getting a replay of this race start again. I have to say, I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think it's a racing incident. It's just one of those things that happens. Damon, what do you think?
Well, as you say, we're just watching it, and I think Nico was just completely surprised by the way Oscar cut across him. I'm looking at the replay, and it does. I think Oscar saw an opportunity. In fact, watching it the first time around, I was thinking he's tucked in behind Lando Norris, and he's seen an opportunity to straight line it and get on the gas early. But in doing so, he just left no room for Nico Hülkenberg.
I have to say, I'll have to revise my opinion there. I think actually that's probably Oscar Piastri's fault. He's got to assume there's someone on his inside. You can't just veer across the track like that trying to get a cutback on your teammate when there's another 17 cars behind you and one's likely to be alongside you. I think that's an error from Piastri.
If you heard me gulping there, we were watching a replay of the onboard from, I think it's Charles Leclerc, who also we saw a replay, very similar one with Yuki Tsunoda, and they were making their way through these incredibly tight.
Massive sandwich. I don't know, but damage definitely the front wing, but the rest I don't know.
Well, that was Hülkenberg. He definitely damaged his front wing because he fell off his car. Then it got dragged round the circuit by Yuki Tsunoda, and then Hülkenberg, who has now fallen back, ended up running over his own front wing a few corners later.
Yeah, I was just finishing that point. You know, they were accelerating out of turn one and going through the very fast sweeping 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, and of course there were cars going slowly, and they had to suddenly duck and dive, missing these cars that were hardly moving. And there were some close calls later on in that lap, but they managed to avoid all that. But as you heard from Nico Hulkenberg, he's lost his front wing, and also lots of cars have run over debris. So I've seen anyone come in with a puncture or...
No, seeing Colapinto did report a puncture on his radio as we're going to get the safety car ending. So Bert Mailander in the Mercedes AMG car, they're celebrating 500 Grand Prix for that Mercedes safety car as well, with a special livery. But Verstappen will take over control of the field, and he will choose when to go. It's Verstappen versus George Russell. These two have history on and off the track as well. Max Verstappen, who has the advantage, and now having started this race weekend with 63 points to close, he's already done so to 55 with both McLarens out, and we're back underway as the revs rise, and we're back to over 200 kilometers an hour out towards the final corner. Now George Russell has stuck absolutely with the Dutchman in the Red Bull, who actually has the tail of that Red Bull slip out slightly out of the final corner, but that Red Bull is remarkable in a straight line as we are back underway for the F1 sprint in the United States of America, and up towards turn one into the left-hander. It's Verstappen, Russell and Sainz the top three, the two Ferraris, Leclerc and Hamilton the top five, Albon, Tsunoda, Behrman the top eight. They are your point scorers currently.
Yeah, and Max went very early. We're watching rearward view of his car, and he accelerated away from George Russell very early before the last two corners, so he didn't give George a chance to close up on him, and so George actually got a clean restart.
They certainly did. Behind them, though, everybody keeping a toe in line. Lap 1, turn 1, that incident has been reviewed. No further investigation from race control on that one, putting it down to a racing incident. Lap 1, turn 1, and everyone now back underway. Just 17 cars remain in this sprint, and we've got to go qualifying later on today as well. This is the sound of Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time champion in the Ferrari. Really disappointing day for both Ferraris yesterday in sprint qualifying, but they have rather benefited from the carnage on lap 1, have worked their way up to 4th and 5th. Hamilton all over the back of his teammate Charles Leclerc.
And of course, the point to make, Harry, is that the two McLarens now, the whole team will be devoid of all the information they could have got from this sprint race that everyone else is still doing. No McLaren car will be giving data to the team, and that may have consequence for tomorrow's race.
F1 taking centre stage already, deep in the heart of America, right here in the Lone Star State. But George Russell has very much kept with Max Verstappen, and now DRS has been enabled, that drag reduction system, which gives you about half a tenth of a second advantage when you're within a second of the car in front of you in the allocated zones, which are down the start finish straight and the back stretch between turn 11 and turn 12. Max Verstappen is currently winding his way through the S's. 3, 4, 5 and 6 come at you quickly before you're heading uphill through turn 9. A quick flick to the left hand side as you rise over the crest of the hill, downhill now into the braking zone of turn 11. George Russell absolutely sticking with him, and he will get the DRS. How quickly can Russell close? The gap is hovering at about a second, but the detection point is just before the braking zone for turn 11, so that rear wing slot does open for Russell, and he does close in on Verstappen, but has a little think about it, but he's too far behind.
A little bit of a feint there, you're right, Harry, and of course that will be noted by Max as we're watching another Kimi Antonelli also having a go to overtake us. Mercedes seem to be on the move, and both and Kimi is actually down in is actually fighting for ninth place off Pierre Gasly, so a bit further back down the field, but nevertheless they're still racing. It's very intense, but of course very important that George kept the gap to within the DRS zone as we're watching on board now with George as we go around the last corner, turn 20, and head off down the straight where he gets another DRS.
He'll get another bite at the cherry as he hits the button on the steering wheel. The rear wing flies open. You get up to speeds of over 310 kilometers an hour before you brake uphill towards almost seems a never-ending apex. Little bit of a wobble on the steering wheel for George Russell, but gets back on the throttle downhill, sweeps through the S's in his continuing chase of the Dutchman ahead.
And they do look fantastic. I love this sequence of corners, the left, right, which is very similar and based, sort of inspired by Silverstone's Beckett section, and they do look great going through there, but it makes it very difficult for the guy behind, which is in this case George Russell, to get close in that section. But we're just watching, and he does seem to have closed the gap again.
On 7/10 he's in at the moment as they head down the back stretch once more. Just another note from race control. Charles Leclerc has been noted for a safety car infringement. We'll keep an eye on that as George Russell down the inside of Max Verstappen into turn 12, forces Verstappen out wide. They both head off the track. Verstappen comes out in front. Russell taking no prisoners, but Max Verstappen will not be forced off the track. In fact, he was, but he will not give up the position as he maintains the lead.
Oh, that was a surprise. I mean, I did say that it was looking still quite close, and George is a feisty driver, isn't he? He just signed a new contract. He's a multi-year, although we're not sure exactly how long the multi-year contract is, but he's happy with his deal, I think, and he's showing what he can do, which he's shown him all year what he can do, and he absolutely mugged Max Verstappen there going into, was it turn 5?
Turn 12.
Feisty driver, and of course there's no love lost between these two at all. You know, the focus of the year has been, is Verstappen going to take Russell's seat at Mercedes? In the end, Verstappen put a lid on that speculation. Russell's new contract, Damon, it's described as multi-year, but I believe it's only 1 year plus some others. So Verstappen and Russell are still tied together. Here's Verstappen's radio.
Hey, what is that? Completely missed the corner.
He went off the track, man.
Yeah, so it's all getting a bit tasty, isn't it?
That was Max Verstappen on the radio talking to his engineer Jean-Pierre Lambiase. Of course, it was here a year ago between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris that the driver guidelines reared their head, and it was a late dart out for George Russell. He did lock up as well, got to the apex, and couldn't quite keep it on the track. So Russell ran off. This is the sound of George Russell trying to slow it down, and he wasn't ever going to make the corner. And they both run wide and maintain their positions. Verstappen in the lead, Russell in his relentless chase, but we're about to get maybe another look at it. I don't think he got the DRS last time around through the detection points. The two Ferraris go wheel to wheel. Lewis Hamilton being forced to the inside by Charles Leclerc. This is the battle for fourth. Leclerc was ahead, Hamilton is now ahead, but Leclerc's going to fight back and try and get the switchback coming in to turn 13, the right-hander. This really tight and technical section, but Hamilton has managed to take it and gets ahead of his teammate as they come out of turn 15 and into the triple right-hander. This sprint is really proving quite entertaining so far.
Some feisty stuff going on here, and looks like Lewis has got the bit between his teeth, and he's definitely showing Charles how to do it around here. But of course, this is one of his most successful circuits. Lewis Hamilton, although it won't count if he wins a sprint, but he's won here 6 times. He's one of only 2 guys. Max is the other guy with 6 wins here at the COTA circuit. So he's actually shown a little bit of circuit knowledge there. But Russell now has dropped back. It's back. The gap is up and out of the DRS zone. It's 1.6 seconds behind Max. Max he didn't miss an opportunity to say what he thought of the George Russell overtake, but of course we have seen Max do similar things in the past himself. It's quite a tactical overtake to dive bomb someone like that. You know it's not going to work, but it certainly keeps the guy on his toes who you're trying to overtake.
Well, Russell has since fallen back now to about 1.6 seconds, and Race Control have noted that incident. Lap 10 of 19 here at the F1 sprint. Verstappen leads Russell, Sainz is third, Hamilton and Leclerc the top 5. With Albon, Tsunoda and Behrman the top 8. They are your current point scorers. With Russell and Verstappen, that incident noted for forcing another driver off the track by Race Control. That has been reviewed. Reviewed with no further investigation.
The ride is really on the rear.
We're on lap 11 of 19 of this sprint race. Dramatic start. Max Verstappen leads, but there was carnage behind. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both out after a first corner collision. Nico Hülkenberg started from fourth, also involved in that. He tagged Piastri at the first corner, sending the Australian into his teammate. It's an exceptionally warm day here in COTA, and the tensions are high. Verstappen right now, though, looking to bag 8 points. Damon Hill, he's really benefited from this, hasn't he, the Dutchman, because he has managed to close down a 63-point gap to Oscar Piastri coming into this race weekend, already down to 55 with still Sunday's Grand Prix to come.
He's very happy with his car. Not only did he out-qualify the McLarens, but now they've been eliminated from this sprint race. He has closed the gap again. Although it's a long shot, Max is still in this title high.
1996 F1 World Champion Damon Hill alongside me for the whole weekend, calling this one. Lap 11 of 19, Verstappen leads Russell and Carlos Sainz the top three. Right, here we go then, a little bit further back in the pack, and the fight over the final points is starting to rear its head. Ollie Bearman in the Haas, an upgraded Haas it should be said, which didn't really quite deliver the hopes and dreams that they wanted to in qualifying yesterday for the sprint. He's got Kimi Antonelli right behind him, about half a second and closing, as we're just getting a replay and the sounds of Lewis Hamilton making his way through the S's and seeing his teammate cut the chicane.
Stupid mistake. Sorry.
So that all happened just before the overtake then between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc lost the Ferrari coming through the high-speed S's, and that allowed Hamilton right onto the back of him and allowed him to tee up that move down the back straight.
Yeah, well, that explains what actually happened there then. So it was actually Charles who ran out of road. We're watching a replay with Liam Lawson dive bombing past, who would that be?
That would have been Pierre Gasly in the Alpine.
Okay, so not so consequential as, say, Lewis Hamilton's pass on Charles, but it's an opportunity and he took it, and he's currently in fourth place, but still a little bit of gap between him and Carlos Sainz.
I think Russell is, sorry David, I think Russell was just decided this one's not going to be worth battling for all the way to the end. It's 2.2 seconds adrift now. That's Verstappen.
I think he knew that. I think he knew he hadn't got a car that can compete against Max, so he took the opportunity when he had the DRS, but it was a brave move and it could have unbalanced Max, but actually Max has just shown he's got plenty of pace to open that gap up and get that annoying George Russell off his tail.
Further back in the pack, the Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg, who will be rather ruining his day. Could have been on to score some big points here. He's currently fighting with Isaac Hadjar over 15th and 16th. Hadjar ahead at the apex as they get to turn 12. Runs a little bit deep, but will have the inside for 13. Forces Hülkenberg in the Sauber to go the long way round, but that allows Hülkenberg to try and get the up and under. Hadjar places that Racing Bulls beautifully in the middle of the track and stops the German driver behind from getting through. But these two having a great ding-dong as they head through the fast triple right-hander of 16, 17 and 18 that then greets you into the left-hand flick of turns 19 before you then have the final corner, turn 20, which leads you back onto the start-finish straight. It's lap 13 of 19. Hulkenberg still behind Hadjar. Up front, Verstappen leads by almost 2.5 seconds to Russell. Sainz holding on to third. It's the exact same Baku podium lineup that we have right now. Hamilton ahead of Leclerc now, the top five. Albon is sixth ahead of Tsunoda. Bearman is still clinging on to that final point, and actually he's within DRS of Tsunoda and bringing Kimi Antonelli along for the ride too. Lawson's worked his way up inside the top 10 and demoted Pierre Gasly in the last couple of laps. Ocon is 12th, Stroll 13th with Bortoleto, Hadjar, Hulkenberg and Colapinto, the 17 drivers that remain in this sprint race. Both McLarens out of this one after contact between the two of them into turn 1 on lap 1. Fernando Alonso also involved in that incident. He is out as well.
So now we've got 2 strikes, both at turn 12. So it looks like they're about 3 laps behind on track limits here.
Copy. Well, that turn 12 one with Max shouldn't really be counted as a racing.
That's George Russell fighting his case about being done for track limits. 3 strikes and a penalty will be coming your way. So that's at turn 12 at the end of that back stretch and running all 4 wheels across the white line. And to add worse things to the matter, it sounds like they're a bit delayed, our race control. So there might well be a few more coming.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a risk, isn't it? Because you could actually tally up too many strikes, and they wouldn't have said anything. So you'd think you'd got away with it, but actually they're pending. And we're watching another replay of Oscar Piastri getting flipped up. In fact, both McLarens, because he then flipped into Lando Norris. So both McLarens almost took off there at turn 1 at the replay, but. We got to say Nico Hülkenberg. I mean, he had a fantastic day yesterday. Oh, yes, that's yesterday.
Yeah,
and
they all blur into one. Here, don't they?
But it was a fantastic day for him. You know, he equalled his best points for Sauber since 2000. Ironically, it was 2013 or something. He qualified fourth.
Incredible.
This circuit. So it was a bit of a coincidence that, but he's had a bit of a year. He's been, as we know, he finally got his podium, and there he was in 4th place. And if only, that hadn't happened, he might have been on the podium for this sprint race.
He hasn't scored points since that podium at Silverstone as Nico Hülkenberg. So he was looking, even though there's less points up on offer, he would have been hopeful, but will be filled with confidence that Sauber has some pace this weekend. At the moment, they're both outside the points. Kimi Antonelli is still struggling behind Ollie Bearman, the British rookie who actually has 10 penalty points to his name. He gets 2 more and it'll be a race ban. As what a beautiful move from Kimi Antonelli, lined that one up down the inside, coming towards turn 15 where it really concertina's up, but Bearman fights back in the Haas, and I think Antonelli kind of, maybe I don't want to get another replay of it, perhaps forced Bearman off the road slightly. Was he just playing ball there and lining it up down the start-finish straight, which they head to now? But this is a nice battle between 2 rookies, both with careers for next season. Ollie Bearman in the Haas, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. Bearman holds on going into turn 1, but a slight lock-up from Bearman just leaves him open to potential attack, but it's one abreast as they come through the high-speed S's of Sector 1.
So much to play for, so much at stake. Their reputations, they're really just starting out on their careers, but they are 2 of the there's a lot of expectation put on Kimi Antonelli's shoulders, being picked up by Toto Wolff and given that opportunity to drive in Formula 1 so early on, but he's up against Ollie Bearman, who again has also famously put in that fantastic performance in the Ferrari, but they've got a long future and a promising future ahead of them, these two, so there's a lot to prove against each other right now.
And Ollie Bearman will be hoping to at least steal 1 point for 8th after a career best quali of 9th in Singapore. That led into a points paying position, and still at the end to turn 12 on that back stretch keeps Kimi Antonelli at bay. FIA incident involving Leclerc reviewed, no further investigation for the Monegasque, but coming in between Bearman and Antonelli, noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. That was at turn 15 a lap ago, but I think that will sort itself out because they have maintained the original order they will be in, but we'll see what the update is from race control. Verstappen still leads, 2.7 seconds to Russell. Sainz is 3rd, Hamilton and Leclerc the top 5. Albon's actually starting to struggle for performance. Yuki Tsunoda has been slowly closing on him over the last couple of laps. He's 7th is Tsunoda. Bearman still holding 8th place in the final point from Kimi Antonelli. Lawson rounds out the top 10, then it's Gasly, Ocon in 12th, Stroll is 13th ahead of Bortoleto and Hadjar, the top 15, with Hülkenberg and Colapinto, the 17 drivers that remain in this race. No Piastri, no Alonso and no Norris. We've got a yellow flag, we've got contact at turn 1. It's Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll, 2 friends off track, coming together in turn 1. Looks like Ocon's out of this one with damage to the rear and front right damage, suspension gone, wheel gone, tyre nearly gone for Lance Stroll, who peels off the circuit. A safety car is out. A safety car started this sprint race and it might well end it as well. The US sprint with drama from lap 1 all the way to lap 19.
And it continues. We haven't seen a replay yet exactly what happened there. We're just about to watch it. We're going up to turn 1, so it looks like Lance Stroll's come from a long way back. Oh, he does. He comes from a massively long way back, and of course that is the problem with this turn 1. The guy who was, in this case, Esteban Ocon, who's taking the racing line, comes right across the bows of the person who's tempted into taking a dive, and he just absolutely got that far. You heard a thump. That was
he did immediately hold his hands up and apologise, did Lance Stroll.
That was a T-bone.
He got that so badly wrong, didn't he, Lance Stroll?
In the country that invented the T-bone steak, or the states that invented the T-bone steak.
And it was very much a T-bone for Stroll. They are friends off the track, Stroll and Ocon, and immediately putting his hand up in the cockpit was the Canadian Lance Stroll. Aston Martin's day has gone from looking pretty optimistic to pretty bleak. Both cars now out of this one. Of course, we have qualifying for the Grand Prix later on, but still, there's going to be a bit of a repair job to get on between now and quali.
Well, you know, I started off with absolutely the wrong description of this sprint race. They've had more action in this sprint race than we've had in quite a long time. You're watching a smouldering...
This is one of the better sprint races of the year, I would say.
We don't want to see crashes, but we've certainly got some in this event. And, of course, everyone seems to be fine, but, of course, their pride is dented and their cars are wrecked. But I was going to move on to talking about Carlos Sainz while we got a moment, because he's had a great race. He qualified well yesterday, and the Williams is looking reasonably good. And I was wondering how long it could hold on at the front end. It's third place at the moment. But the pace is starting to wane, I think. And I'm looking at Lewis Hamilton. Now there's a safety car. Lewis will be right behind Carlos Sainz and looking for a podium, albeit a sprint podium, but he'll still be very keen to get there.
Esteban Ocon is out of his car, so too is Lance Stroll. Safety car is out, lap 17 of 19. The biggest thing I've learned about Esteban Ocon this weekend is that he sleeps 12 hours a night, apparently, and I wonder if he'll be getting another 12 tonight.
If I slept 12 hours a night, you'd have to give me an intravenous caffeine to get me up the rest of the day. I mean, honestly, how do you sleep for 12 hours?
Thing is, though, Damon Hill, what I've learned about you is that you're a man that comes to a race where the air temperature is 30.7 degrees and a heat hazard has been declared, and you put about 4 layers on when you came into the commentary box.
In the commentary box because of the air conditioning. I'm definitely cooking out there. It is very vicious, the sun out here, and that is why they wear large cowboy hats to keep the sun off your face. And it is brutal here. We're as far south as the Sahara Desert, parts of the Sahara Desert. You know, it's a long way south, and the sun, it just beats down and warms you up. And there's quite a lot of humidity here as well. They've had a lot of moisture recently, and there's moisture on the ground, and it goes up, and you sweat. It's hot.
It is hot indeed. A heat hazard declared coming into this weekend, so the cooling vests are in action. Although here is from Kimi Antonelli after yesterday's running. The Mercedes driver is currently 9th, just outside the points. I think we're going to end this one. Maybe we'll get one lap at the end as we start lap 18 still under safety car, so it might just help Behrman keep Antonelli at bay, and Max Verstappen is almost driving up alongside the safety car, trying to hurry Bert Mailander up.
Yeah, he's definitely giving him the hurry up, isn't he? He's not Bern's probably absolutely flat out there. He's going as fast as he can, but he's backing them all up. I think what's happened now is he's decided, right, we need to bunch up this pack pretty quickly and slow it up, because I think he'll want to come in at the end of this lap. They've only got one lap left, so have they cleared up mess in time? Will there be an extra racing lap? I think there could well be. It's looking like we're building up. Yes. Oh no, the lights haven't gone out yet.
Well, I think they're still waiting because they've got Colapinto and Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, all just coming through turn 1 now. Colapinto's only heading up the hill now, so I'll be hoping they get just a little bit closer. But I reckon we might well get one more. FIA stewards incident involving Behrman and Antonelli, that leaving the track and getting advantage, has been elevated to under investigation, and the incident between Ocon and Stroll, which caused this safety car with Stroll rather T-boning Esteban Ocon into turn 1. For causing a collision that has been noted by race control. And we're getting another look here coming in to 15. Now Behrman went all 4 wheels off the track. Antonelli slid down the inside. Lovely move from Antonelli. Looks cool, calm and collected. Didn't give Behrman any room on the exit. How do you read that one, Damon?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because actually Kimi went very deep and Ollie went wide to try and swoop back, but of course there was no room because Kimi didn't leave him any room. There wasn't enough track left, so he's left the track to preserve his position and then actually stay in front. So I think maybe that is seeing them.
I think unfortunately it's a penalty for Behrman, who has been given 10 seconds for leaving the track and gaining an advantage.
But he had to leave the track because otherwise Kimi would have hit him. You know, so this is one of the problems with this rule, is that you can force the person into taking a penalty by just not leaving them any room. I mean, because you could argue that the other problem is you're supposed to leave a car's width on the exit of the corner if you've got a car alongside you.
It goes back to these guidelines, doesn't it? You've got to have the front axle at least alongside the mirror of the other car prior to and at the apex, and be in a fully controlled manner, particularly from entry to apex, not to have been conceived of diving in. So I wonder if Haas and Behrman might want a bit of an appeal on that one. Here is Behrman.
Is there any investigation for what happened with me and Antonelli?
Yeah, Ollie, unfortunately, we got a 10-second time penalty.
What the hell? That is incredible.
And that's Ollie Behrman's reaction, and I kind of understand why, because he will lose that point-paying position, which will be incredibly crucial not only for him but also for Haas, as they are in a great fight in the midfield. But Damon Hill, we're on the final lap of the sprint. It's going to end under the safety car.
Under the safety car, so I'm sorry, disappointment to anyone who was waiting for a last lap dash. It doesn't look like we're going to get it, so the safety car will pull in at the end of this lap, but then they'll just cross the line in the order that they are now. And I do like the question from Ollie Behrman, which was a bit like saying, am I going to be getting a fine for anything that might have happened? Why was he asking the question if he didn't feel slightly uncomfortable about
maybe he was hoping to dob Antonelli in slightly, but that will promote Antonelli up into that final points paying position. Because everyone's so close, I expect Behrman basically to fall right to the back of this one once they cross the line for the final time. 15 cars are going to finish this F1 sprint. They're making their way down to turn 12 for the final time in this sprint race. We'll have Grand Prix qualifying later on today. This is just to whet the appetite for Saturday. We've got qualifying to come still for the Grand Prix.
It's just the hors d'oeuvres. Of course, the big meal is the Grand Prix, and the qualifying is going to be a very interesting one, and a lot to recover from McLaren. They've got a lot on their plate this weekend, and they are watching the Red Bull. I've written down in my notes a great white shark, because Max, to me, seems like he was coming from deep, way back, 60 points behind, and he's coming up to the surface, and he's getting closer with every twist and turn of this championship. And there he is. We're watching him trundling along. He's not even wearing his car out. He's behind the safety car, and he's going to win the sprint race. And he's won 100%, or whatever it is. He's won more sprint races than anyone in Formula One, and he's won every single sprint race from start to finish that he's done in Austin.
It's incredible from Max Verstappen, who led this race from pole and avoided all the carnage behind him. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri ahead of him in the championship. Nowhere to be seen in this sprint race after that first corner collision that involved Hülkenberg and Alonso round the final corner. The US sprint is finished, and it is Max Verstappen who takes the sprint win ahead of the Mercedes of George Russell. And it's a repeat of the Baku podium with Carlos Sainz in the Williams, the top three. No podium celebrations for a sprint, but crucial points as well. 8 for the win, all the way down to 1 point. That will go to Kimi Antonelli, who manages to inherit Behrman's 8th place after Ollie Behrman and his 10-second time penalty. The two Ferraris recover to 4th and 5th. Albon is 6th ahead of Tsunoda. Then it's Antonelli, Lawson and Gasly the top 10. Bortoletto, Hadjar, Hülkenberg, Colapinto and Behrman the 15 to finish. Retirements for Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll. They came together in turn 1 and lap 1. Well, we'll be talking about this, I think, all the way to the end of the day. The two McLarens out.
A bit of work to do, but well done.
Yeah, good race. I think that's all in. And we'll analyse the rest.
Well, what started the day with a 63-point gap to Oscar Piastri, who heads the championship. Max Verstappen has now closed that to 55 points before the big points are handed out on Grand Prix Sunday. 25 for the win. Another good result for George Russell with a fresh contract in his back pocket. What is widely believed to be a multi-year deal. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, nice job there.
George, it was a good scent.
Yeah, I knew that was the only chance. I had to try it.
We're still catching our breath. Max Verstappen for Red Bull led the sprint race from pole all the way to the win, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both out at the first corner. He closes in for this championship battle. Verstappen takes the win ahead of George Russell and Carlos Sainz. This is just the teaser. We've got Grand Prix qualifying coming up later on today. Max Verstappen then cruising round back to the start-finish straight to line up on the grids where he'll receive his medal, and the top three will all do that, and then it will hopefully hear from Max Verstappen and his thoughts. And those McLaren drivers, as well as a bit of a rebuild on their hands in between now and qualifying, Damon.
Yeah,
this is a bit of a rebuild, especially for Lando Norris's car. This is going to be weighing on the back of their minds once again as we go into Grand Prix Sunday. McLaren can't exactly manage this.
No, this is tricky for them because, I mean, those cars took a bit of a biff. You know, they were thrown up in the air, they collided, hit each other's rear wheels, and that can shock the suspension, can shock the gearbox, you know, and then they landed quite heftily. So they will be clearly going through all of that and looking at what the state of play is, but you know, a little bit of a question mark always over the preparation, whereas Max's car is untouched and is looking, you know, well prepared. He can look forward to perhaps this afternoon getting another pole position here.
It is shining in the Texan sun as Max Verstappen heads over to speak to the FIA president, gets a tap on the back. George Russell just climbs out of his Mercedes cockpit as well. They'll be joined by Carlos Sainz. Andrew Benson, what a way to start Saturday.
I'm not sure what the FIA president's doing there, apart from trying to get himself on camera. But yes, it was an incredible start to the weekend, wasn't it? I mean, look, we've been talking all weekend about the fallout from Singapore, which was a relatively minor incident. That led to loads of discussions at McLaren. I'm a bit gutted because I did an interview with Zach Brown before this race about how they were managing the drivers, and that was for the bin, I think, after this race.
But this is the thing, right? There's so many things that are outside of McLaren's control. Effectively, you know, that was three cars going into turn one, all sandwiched, a racing incident.
I'm going to ask Damon again about that because we're going to hear from Max Verstappen in a minute, but I think it's going to be really interesting how McLaren judged that incident. Was it Piastri's fault? Was Hülkenberg in too deep? Was Piastri too ambitious with his cutback? Did he not pay enough attention to other cars around him? I mean, they won't talk to the media, I don't think, between now and Grand Prix qualifying, but we'll certainly speak to Andrea Stella, the team principal, this evening, and that's going to be very interesting. And we've got qualifying to come as well, quite apart from anything else. I still think that Max Verstappen's an outside bet in the championship. 50-odd points is still a long way, but
this just highlights all it takes for him to suddenly be back in the mix again, you know, in a more realistic manner. 63 down to 55 over the course of the last three Grand Prix weekends. Before this one, he reduced the gap to Piastri by 41 points. If anyone can do it, you put Max Verstappen in.
Oh, completely. I mean, you know, we've seen this before. We saw it with Lewis, you know, we saw it in 21. You know, he came from what seemed like an improbable disadvantage and he overturned it, and it came down to wire. But looking back at the start, talking back to about the incident at the start there, I mean, I have to say that you know, Lando, he did suddenly change line, and he obviously got the traction down his sorry, not Lando, Oscar is behind Lando, and he's got on the power, and he did jink to the left a little bit, to the surprise, I think, of Nico. He will probably say, well, I didn't expect him to cut across quite so early, but you know, this is not driving round you know, your local high street. This is not mirror signal manoeuvre. This is the start of a Grand Prix, and people do those kind of things.
Well, let's hear from Max Verstappen. He's speaking to the 2009 champ, Jenson Button.
Max Verstappen, once again the winner of the sprint race here in Austin. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better, could it?
Yeah, I mean, start was good. Then, of course, there was a safety car because of the turn one incident. Then it took a few laps after the safety car to have decent pace, so we need to figure out what was going on there. But nevertheless, we won the sprint, which is, of course, the most important. But, of course, already looking ahead for tomorrow, I do think we need to be a bit better in race trim to be able to fight the McLarens, because we haven't seen anything of them.
Yeah, I heard you on the radio. I think you said the rear isn't very good. I think those are the words you said.
Kind of, yes.
Is there something that you can do? Do you understand what you can do to try and improve that for qualifying in the race?
Well, we'll have a look. Of course, we have some ideas what we can do, and then hopefully we'll just stick a bit better tomorrow.
Congrats. George, P6, to P2. Not a bad result, and nice little lunge there down the inside of Max.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you don't get many opportunities with Max. I saw half a chance and sent it. I was probably too far behind, but it was glad I gave it a go. P2 for sure was better than we could have expected, and some decent points.
I need to ask you about turn 1. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the incident at turn 1. What could you see from your view?
I mean, I was on the outside and I fully sent it, and then I realised everyone on the inside fully sent it as well. And Carlos and I were like, I don't think that's going to end too nicely. And then, I mean, obviously, I've not seen it. I only saw it from my perspective, but it looked like it was sort of 3 cars into 1, which doesn't often go.
Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
Carlos, you're making a habit of this. Second podium in 3 races. I know it's a sprint, but still.
I think Carlos's mic might be broken there, but the cheers for Sainz are huge. Big support for the Williams driver, and he's trying a few different mics. No, still not working. There we go. No, that was good. Max Verstappen was just giving him a mic.
Took the outside line into 1, which was definitely. Well, I can do both at the same time. I don't know. We definitely. Yeah, we had a solid race. We solid pace from there on. The Ferraris were quick behind, but I kept them under control, and we brought home the P3, which tastes really good.
Something seems to have clicked with you this year, the last few races in the car. What's changed, and what's giving you this confidence to be fighting for podiums every weekend?
Nothing. We're just getting a little bit more lucky, and things stop happening to us. But I've had this pace all year. It's just for the first half of the year I weren't able to show it and to prove it, but now that things are running a lot smoother and I'm just doing everything that I was doing in the first half. It's just things are clicking, and just happy to show what we can do as a team, what I can do. The car was great yesterday in quali and today in the race, so we lack a bit compared to these guys. Obviously we cannot fight them, but we're still in the mix, so it's good to see.
Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
We got there at the end for Carlos Sainz. Magnificent performance from him, making hay of that carnage in turn 1, and actually with those points for 3rd in the sprint, works his way up inside the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship. But that is the US Sprint done and dusted. It has been won by Max Verstappen ahead of George Russell and Carlos Sainz, but there is a bit of a rebuild job to do for a few of the teams, particularly the 2 McLaren drivers. 0 points collected from this sprint. We'll meet back here again then, shall we, in a few hours' time. Thanks to Jenny Gow, thanks Andrew Benson, thanks Damon Hill. Join us for Grand Prix qualifying later on tonight. That'll get going at about 9:55 in the evening on Sports Extra, ahead of the green light coming on at 10 o'clock. If that has not whet your appetite, I don't know what will. We hope you can join us for US Grand Prix qualifying. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.